is funded for the first time in Kentucky's history in my budget recommendation. And at only about 8% of our current budget surplus, we cannot afford not to make that investment and get all of our 4-year-olds into schools. The budget recommendation on education provides real raises for all of our school teachers, administrators, and staff. Other initiatives will enhance education at every level. We will boost our career and technical schools across Kentucky, offer loan forgiveness to educators, and build our Bucks for Brains program to enhance university research. Making these investments are the right thing to do, but they're also the necessary thing we must do because our future is now. We're coming off a year where we shattered every economic development record in the books. We had a record $11.2 billion in private investment just last year. Even better, it's going to create over 18,000 new jobs for our Kentucky families that pay an average hourly wage that is the second highest in history. They are not just jobs, they are good jobs that will support 18,000 Kentucky families. Last year, we made the amazing transformation of never being a flyover state. Again, we are the destination. We're being chosen as the destination by more world-class companies than ever before that are locating or expanding in Kentucky. They're companies like Ford, Toyota, Amazon, Pratt, GE, and Fidelity Investments. And I believe last year was also more inclusive than ever before, bringing huge investments and new jobs to areas, some of which hadn't seen new jobs in far too long. It includes Firestone Industrial Products, which created 250 new jobs in Whitley County. Alstrom Monks Joe, which located a second facility in Madisonville. Lion First Responder, which returned to Beattyville. Novellus, which opened its first new facility since 1982 last year, investing $300 million in Todd County. And today, they announced an expansion. They are moving forward on phase 2 with a $365 million additional investment that's going to construct a recycling center that will create 140 well-paying jobs for local residents. That's right, from operationalizing an investment last year to the new investment this year, that's over $665 million, two-thirds of $1 billion invested in Todd County alone just over the last several years. We are on top, but to stay on top takes investment and it takes work. That starts with the world-class education system we discussed yesterday, but it also includes direct investment in economic development, in infrastructure, in workforce, and in key industries such as agritech, pharma, and tourism. My budget aims to pair record investments in education with investments in these key areas so that we're not just looking back at 2 years of great economic growth, but 20 years of incredible progress and prosperity. As representatives of the people of Kentucky, we have the responsibility and the resources to meet this historic moment. We just have to have the courage and the vision to say we can do so much more and we can be so much more, and we will never be 40th in anything ever again. This is our chance. We can make that happen. And there is no question that we have the resources to make key investments while still having the most fiscally responsible budget in recent history, one that adds to the rainy day fund, pays down our largest pension liability, that has the lowest debt ratio in recent memory, and that spends less on recurring costs or expenses than we have coming in recurring revenue. We also saw an all-time record-setting revenue surplus in 2021. The revenue estimate for this fiscal year is bright, with $1.9 billion more than budgeted. There is no question the money is there. Adding urgency to this opportunity, we have another $1 billion to be appropriated from the Federal American Rescue Plan Act, as well as funds from the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which was supported by folks from both sides of the aisle, including myself and Senator McConnell. It's expected to bring $6 billion into Kentucky over the next 5 years. With these dollars, my budget targets investments to create and attract the jobs of the future and aligns our workforce readiness with business needs to ensure that we can fill the high quality jobs that are coming our way. So let's start today with creating and attracting jobs. Last year, we landed the largest single economic development project in our history. At nearly $6 billion and 5,000 new jobs, the Blue Oval SK Battery Park will make us a global leader in electric battery production. But that investment did not happen overnight. It took decades of work, of purchasing of land, of bringing utilities, of doing road work. It took investment in infrastructure to get a mega site to be not shovel, but build ready. And in an economy where speed to market is one of the most important things, and we're seeing it time and time again, we must have more sites across Kentucky that aren't just build, but are shovel ready. So my budget prepares us to secure the next Ford or the next Toyota or the next Pratt or the next Novelis. And it aims to provide every Kentucky region with the opportunity to compete for that next amazing transformational opportunity. That's why my budget calls for $250 million in one-time funds to be used to develop a site identification and development program. This fund is going to help communities grow small industrial or business sites to be larger. It'll help prepare them to be build ready, to work on utilities and other needs so that when they market that to the next great employer, it is ready to go. Remember, we are on a roll, the likes of which we've never seen, and our belief is that we're already out of mega sites. We'll be out of large sites and maybe medium sites to locate companies within the next several years. This ensures that our role can continue, that we can welcome others, new jobs, new companies, and new investments in. But you don't have that site that makes you more competitive than the other state without putting in the work, putting in the dollars, and putting in the infrastructure. At a time where the Commonwealth is as hot as it can be, this is the investment that continues our good fortune moving forward. Now, we have a video message from the Kentucky Association of Economic Development's president and CEO, Matt Tackett.
Hello, Kentucky. This is Matt Tackett coming to you from the Kentucky Association for Economic Development, where we, for several years, have aggressively supported and facilitated funding for site development throughout our Commonwealth. No doubt, our economic development team is accelerating momentum. We're proving over and over that Kentucky is a world-class location to locate and grow a business. And our iconic tradition, coupled with this historic momentum, positions us with unprecedented future opportunity. Now, our success is amazing, and it further motivates us to act. Each time we celebrate a great economic development win, another one of our available properties goes off market. And if we are to continue to move the needle, we must ready sites and buildings now to welcome new companies and new jobs to our communities. Investing in our sites and buildings is an ROI-producing signal that Kentucky communities stand ready to provide global enterprise with quick, risk-free site selection experiences and nurturing business environments. Speed to market is critical to our future success, which is why the Kentucky Association for Economic Development supports this program and the continuation and enhancement of strategic site development initiatives.
Thank you to Matt and to everybody at KAED for working to promote economic development in the Commonwealth. And you could hear his excitement about not only where we are, but where we can go. And I think the comment that hit it right, the nail on the head is every time we welcome a new company, we make a great announcement. One great piece of property that we have worked hard to get ready goes off the market. We have to make sure we are replenishing them so that we can welcome the next great opportunity. You don't succeed without putting in the work. One of the reasons Kentucky is winning is that we are attracting the jobs of the future. So Toyota, Ford, Firestone are examples on the electric vehicle batteries. But Kentucky is also leading in agriculture technology with App Harvest announcing 4 expansions in Moorhead, Somerset, Berea, and Richmond. Appalachia launched this year, and Inez expected to eventually create almost 2,000 jobs. Fresh Harvest growing in Stanford, and Viroflight thriving in Maysville. This is one of the largest areas of new investment worldwide. It recognizes that we have to increase our yields by 2, 3, 4 times in the coming years just to feed the world's growing population. And that's before you address the changing weather patterns and the potential famine that we may see in the future. We want to make sure that we are not just where we grow the food of the future, but where the ideas come from, where the research is done, where the intellectual capital is. That we put a stake in the ground saying the high-paying, high-wage jobs, the research, the university research, the next breakthroughs, the intellectual property is going to be in Eastern Kentucky and in Kentucky, and not just the labor. So my budget ensures that Kentucky will be the agri-tech capital of the United States, not just now, but into the future. That means, again, not just having the facilities and the workers, but the ideas themselves. That's why my budget invests $75 million to support and build a state-of-the-art agri-tech research and development center in the heart of Eastern Kentucky. It's going to bring together the best minds of our private sector, of our universities, which are on board, of our Dutch consortium, whose universities and companies want a home here in the Commonwealth that they can grow their businesses from. The coming years will be crucial, and this is how we ensure that we can meet the needs of our world, of our people, and to have food security for children that will be born 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now. We're going to hear why this project is so important to Kentucky from a pretty special guy, a visionary who has helped us to make Kentucky the agri-tech capital of the world, Jonathan Webb.
Nobody works harder than people here in our state. That's why at App Harvest, we've invested over $500 million in the past year. We believe in the future of ag tech in Kentucky, but we can't do this alone. California literally is on fire with extensive droughts, while Kentucky has had its wettest decade on record. We need universities and high schools training our young people for the jobs of tomorrow. This isn't about one company. It's not about left or right or Republican or Democrat. We all need to work together to ensure that our young people have the talent and skills to go operate in a world that is ever changing. What Kentuckians need is opportunity right here in the Commonwealth, so talent stays here at home to keep growing and diversifying our economy. The same people that powered this country for generations, they have the opportunity to lead a new sector. But Kentucky isn't the only place that would like to claim this title. Other states are eager to do the same to create jobs in their regions. We have a head start in our state with private investment already being made, with more than 7 high schools that have hands-on training, learning how to grow a leafy green with an iPhone and iPad year-round. To successfully compete and secure this future, Kentucky needs a world-class research center to innovate agriculture technologies and methods, to further educate and develop the region's talent pool, and to usher in a more diverse high-tech economy. Supporting this research center supports Kentucky, and it prepares our young people to be farmers and futurists for decades to come. We'll be able to attract top PhDs and top international talent to come work here in Kentucky and train our next generation. App Harvest is just one example, but we want other companies here. We're already working with about 300 regional suppliers and dozens of international partners. We look forward to being a team player, working with both sides of the aisle in every community. We look forward to attracting other companies here and working with our universities to develop talent. This is about building an ecosystem all across Kentucky that we can all share in.
Thank you to App Harvest and Jonathan for their work on transforming agriculture, both in Kentucky and across the globe. We're also working to attract the jobs of tomorrow through smart investments in industries with great promise. One of the untold stories in Kentucky is the work of some northern Kentucky companies on testing and ensuring these vaccines that are saving lives around the world were and are safe. We've got to make sure that we support those groups and to grow that life sciences industry in northern Kentucky where it is taking off. So my budget invests $10 million in the city of Covington to support the construction and outfitting of a shared research and development lab facility to serve the rapidly expanding life sciences sector in the region. The facility is a collaboration between the city, private businesses, a regional economic development organization, and higher learning. And as I hope you're seeing from Agritech and from this, now's our time to not just be doing the work for companies located in other states, but to truly have the intellectual capital and intellectual property developed right here in Kentucky. Let's show them we not only work hard, but we can outthink anybody else in this country and across the world. With all these businesses and employees landing in Kentucky, we must continue to improve critical infrastructure necessary for our Commonwealth to thrive. That's why my budget invests in the moment, allocating nearly $185 million over 3 years to meet a state match that's going to unlock $775 million in additional federal money from the Federal Highway Trust Fund. That will allow for nearly $1 billion for road and bridge construction in Kentucky. My 2022 to 24 biennial highway construction plan is a robust $8.5 billion plan based on anticipated and federal program review. It invests in critical projects from north to south, east to west, and continues critical work on four-laning the Mountain Parkway, building that I-69 bridge, and charting the path to building the Brent Spence Companion Bridge without tolls. We are closer to meeting that goal than ever before. In fact, my budget goes above and beyond to support these projects. It proposes a historic investment of $250 million from the general fund for major transportation infrastructure projects targeting those three major projects: Mountain Parkway, I-69, and Brent Spence. These are one-time funds meant to push us ahead, and it will allow our application to the federal government for the Brent Spence Bridge to say we have already budgeted for the entire state portion if you give us the grant we're applying for. In other words, we can say Kentucky has done its part, and this will get done without tolls if the federal government gives us the award that we applied for. It is as serious as we can be, and it puts us in the very best position to meet that goal. And folks, I think we're going to do it. And with Kentucky taking the lead in electric vehicles, we must meet the needs of this new industry. With Ford, Toyota, Firestone, and so many others, we must build out our EV infrastructure across Kentucky. My budget directs $100 million to begin building out our electric charging station network and other EV infrastructure. It uses $30.5 million from the general fund, of which $17 million meets the match to unlock nearly $70 million in federal funds from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, what we call the infrastructure bill. If we want to lead in electrification, we got to invest in it. We can't make the batteries of the future and not have charging stations for those cars. This helps us be thoughtful along with our partners who are investing in us. So anybody who comes to see those battery manufacturing plants or the construction of the vehicles or the springs and others that are done at different parts of Kentucky can drive that very vehicle that we are helping to produce and charge it right here in Kentucky. In addition to funding school construction, my Better Kentucky plan directs an additional $500 million in grants and low-interest loans to improve water and sewer systems. Altogether, $500 million in between $250 million of grants from our ARPA funds and then other low-interest loans through that infrastructure bill. This will be one of the largest investments in water and sewer that we have seen across a biennium budget. And the reason is simple. Clean drinking water is a basic right. This past year, I've been able to travel to communities like Morton's Gap and meet families there in Hopkins County that have never had clean drinking water in their homes. That's wrong. And every time that we can address it and provide another family with clean water, with the sewer systems that they deserve, we improve their health and we meet our values and live out our faith. Economic development is also not possible without having the sanitary and industrial sewer systems that are absolutely critical. And I don't know about you, but I think we've experienced enough flooding to last for 6, 7, 8 lifetimes. Each of these projects helps these communities to address their needs to help be more resilient for that next round of flooding that we know is coming. And the pandemic has shown us that access to reliable, high-speed internet is a necessity in our world. My budget directs $200 million to boost high-speed internet across the Commonwealth. That'll go into a fund where last budget we already allocated certain funds, bringing us up to $500 million, $500 million to deploy for broadband across Kentucky. And my budget invests $50 million from the general fund to develop Kentucky's general aviation airports, and that's so critical. Rocky and I remember being in Mount Sterling and looking over at a corporate jet that was from Nestle, because they make Hot Pockets outside of Mount Sterling. The ability of that company, its CEO or anybody else, to fly from their headquarters, land 10 miles from their facility, be in there in only part of a day is such an advantage, and we see it at every airport across Kentucky. In addition, we're providing an additional $6 million to keep our promise to have a world-class airport, which requires a world-class terminal at the Barkley Regional Airport in Paducah. Western Kentucky has so much that it needs to compete. When we complete I-69, it'll have the interstate infrastructure. It has amazing river and port infrastructure. It has rail, but for far too long, it has lacked a larger, competitive airport that can bring people in and open up that region. This is answering our promise that Western Kentucky can compete just like every other part of Kentucky to better the lives of their people. So today we're sharing a video from McCracken County Judge Executive Craig Clymer.
Governor Beshear is including in his recommended budget to the Kentucky legislature an additional $6 million from the state for the construction of the new terminal at McCracken County's Barkley Regional Airport. The proposed extra allocation will relieve the city and county from the burden of using our tax revenue to cover this expense. The airport terminal is a federal, state, and local government collaboration that is recognized by all as a strong addition to McCracken County. But it's not just McCracken County that benefits. The entire region will be stronger and more vibrant. That's why the governor spoke and Senator McConnell spoke at the recent groundbreaking. And it's why we saw our local legislators, our mayor, and many of our local judges from farthest west Kentucky and surrounding communities. This offer of $6 million comes at a time when our neighbors in Graves and Marshall County and other nearby communities are 1 month past a massive tornado. They're building back from near devastation. And as they build their communities back, we will build this new terminal, bringing great prosperity and development into all of West Kentucky. Our state legislators, Senator Carroll, Representatives Rudy, Bridges, Heath, and Freeland, and our governor have worked closely with Mayor Bray and I and other local leaders and many community members in pushing this project forward. On behalf of nearly 70,000 McCracken County residents and the hundreds of thousands of residents who will benefit, I thank Governor Beshear for his interest and efforts, and I feel confident that our legislators will include this $6 million in their budget and move West Kentucky strongly forward in the coming years.
With high-quality education as a foundation, bridging the gap between learning and workforce participation becomes all the more crucial to Kentucky and its future. My administration already has been actively engaged in this issue. Last year, we helped launch the Everybody Counts initiative, a pilot program in Jefferson County. We have great partners: Ford, UPS, GE Appliances, and Kroger. They're helping us move towards the goal where every single graduating senior will either be signed up for higher education and know how it's being paid for, or already have been placed in a job that they start upon graduation. My new budget includes $1.5 million each year to extend this important program. This has been embraced not only by that school system and the employers there, but every other employer finding challenges with workforce that we have had a discussion with see this as a program that will work and they want to bring to their community. This provides extra infrastructure to provide the guidance and the help needed to make the connections and launch these programs in so many different areas. Between this, some other programs I'm going to describe in a moment, and the impact that universal pre-K will have on childcare needs, we can have a direct and immediate impact on our workforce and workforce participation. And not funding these will be saying that while you acknowledge we have far too many people not in the workforce, you're not willing to do the small things necessary to fix it. So our budget also includes $20 million each year to launch a competitive workforce initiative program. Under it, public and private schools will be able to secure funding for new and expanded programs that have to have a commitment of connecting directly to employers. One of our challenges is that for so long, when there were more workers than jobs, we'd simply graduate people in fields we knew were needed, and then we expected employers and the potential employees to find one another. That can no longer be our model. This is a grant program intended for someone going through a training program to already have a job lined up either at the beginning or in the middle of that program. It's the connection between business and education and or training that we have needed for so long and will make us a leader in the country on workforce. Kentucky is increasingly embracing an economy of innovation that requires a trained and educated workforce. So to that end, we know we've got to attract more talent to Kentucky. In our budget, we call for $10 million per year to fund a talent attraction media campaign that will show the whole world, again, that we are not a flyover state, we are the destination, that will show the great opportunities that we have in all of these industries of the future. We are already seeing so many people move to different parts of the country that before they wouldn't have looked at. This is our chance to make sure Kentucky is on their list. And just like we are winning with companies, we know we can win with people. Our budget also includes $2.5 million each year to train Ford workers on robotics and advanced manufacturing, ensuring we can meet our obligations to that company. And finally, our budget provides nearly $700,000 each year to the Louisville Urban League for a program that trains disadvantaged folks towards obtaining a commercial driver's license, a CDL, where pay has never been better and there is an overwhelming demand. The Louisville Urban League ran one of these programs before successfully, and this is a real opportunity to make a difference in that community. So I keep noting that Kentucky is now the destination, but an industry that we haven't talked about that's all about Kentucky being the destination is tourism. Kentucky, we're a destination for world-class bourbon. We're a destination for the finest horse racing. We're a destination for great music, cuisine, as well as our beautiful outdoors and so much more. And we got to keep the people coming. And there is no greater gem in tourism than our state parks. They are not just a way that we attract tourists and their dollars to show the very best of Kentucky, but they're also part of our heart and soul that have allowed us to respond, whether to the COVID pandemic and housing first responders and some people who are sick but didn't need to be in the hospital, to currently opening their doors and welcoming folks that had their homes wiped out by tornadoes and saying, we got you and we're going to take care of you. But we have not invested in our parks in meaningful ways in far too long. So to keep the visitors coming and to make sure that we have this tool to help our own people when needed, I'm directing $200 million in one-time money from the general fund to pay for badly needed work at our state parks. The money will fund essential preservation projects, maintenance, repair, and new projects at parks across the Commonwealth. The goal is to preserve these assets for their regions and communities while enhancing what the facilities can offer. Our budget also dedicates $10 million in ARPA funds to boost our tourism industry through a targeted marketing campaign. I'd like to introduce our Secretary for Tourism and a whole lot of other things, Mike Berry.
Thank you, Governor. Every week, the governor has announced economic investments that are strengthening Kentucky's communities and creating job opportunities for every Kentuckian in the Commonwealth. Kentucky is experiencing historic economic momentum that has placed us at the forefront as the ideal place for travel and business. Within a day's drive of 2/3 of the U.S. population, Kentucky's economic landscape creates a perfect recipe for business to thrive, and the tourism industry is no exception. We are an $8.9 billion annual industry in this Commonwealth. The Beshear administration understands the economic impact that tourism has on our communities, and we are committed to ensuring Kentucky is a diverse, welcoming travel destination. Today's proposed budget announcements reinforce the commitment and follows a $13.1 million economic investment in the tourism industry and more than $800,000 for the arts industry previously by this administration. The additional dollars to promote Kentucky as a destination and to assist the travel industry will help this sector recover following the impact caused by the pandemic. Nonprofit arts organizations will benefit from this general funding as well as they continue reopening and reimagining after their recent intermission. Kentucky is home to 45 state parks and 17 resort parks that serve as a major tourism attraction and employer for many rural communities. And most recently, following the devastating tornadoes in Western Kentucky, our state parks began providing shelter and food for over 600 displaced guests and first responders. Modernizing our facilities has been an ongoing bipartisan effort and remains critically important for ensuring that our parks can remain competitive in the tourism industry. The governor's proposed investment of $200 million in one-time funding for our state parks will allow us to preserve essential preservation, continue much needed maintenance and repair, and begin new projects that will improve the guest experience. I want to thank Governor Beshear for his ongoing support of the Tourism, Arts, and Heritage Cabinet and for understanding the significant role that tourism and the arts can play in fostering Kentucky's booming economy. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Secretary. When we look at this last year and we look at the opportunities ahead of us, it is clear that our time is here and our future is now. There is no question that we've arrived, but having arrived, we must make the investments necessary to stay. We got a choice. We can come off our best year ever, tread water, punt on third down, or we can do the hard work to stay on top. You know, we all enjoy winning, but winning requires putting in the work to stay there. Remember, there's the next game and the next game and the next game after that. And what this budget does is not sit on our laurels, but create a world-class education system and make the investments in economic development, workforce training, and tourism to stay on top now and into the future. Our families deserve no less. Let's make sure our kids inherit an incredible economy, and our kids' kids and our kids' kids after that, because now is the moment. We've never had a budget where we can do more. We'll wrap up with our budget director, John Hicks, who again is going to go over how this is the soundest economic budget that we have seen in years, that we spend less than we are bringing in, and that certainly all of this is not only affordable, but will set up better budgets in the future. We cannot afford not to invest. Failing to do so is just a lack of courage. John?
Thank you, Governor. I want to describe that this budget is real and responsible. It is based upon sound economic assumptions that are agreed to by a 10-member consensus forecasting group of outside economists and financial experts who, under state statute, determine the official revenue estimates. Kentucky is the only state in the country that has an exclusively outside body of experts who comes up with our revenue estimates. No partisan influence, no institutional membership. The governor, as he said before, we devote non-recurring resources to non-recurring uses. And we've heard some of those examples here today with a $200 million investment in our parks. This budget pays down on the Commonwealth's worst funded pension plan, the Kentucky Employees Retirement System non-hazardous plan, one of the worst funded in the country. Now we're paying our mortgage, but we're going to add to that mortgage with one-time money. It creates the largest budget reserve trust fund, the state's rainy day fund, and adds to it. When the governor came into office, Kentucky was ranked 44th in the country in the size of its rainy day fund. We have moved up substantially above the median of all states. This budget pays down on the deferred maintenance debt of the Commonwealth. We just heard about $200 million for parks. Overall, you heard about post-secondary education yesterday. $1.2 billion in deferred maintenance financing in this governor's budget, something that has never happened before in Kentucky. This budget establishes a disaster relief and recovery fund that many states have, but Kentucky doesn't. We have to use our rainy day fund when it comes to responding to floods and tornadoes and other disasters and calling out the National Guard. This budget is more than structurally balanced, with less recurring spending than our recurring revenues, which sets up a positive outlook for the next budget after that, where we'll start that budget with money in our pocket before even having revenue increases. And lastly, this budget stays significantly below the Commonwealth's debt policy of 6% of debt service principal and interest payments to revenues. This budget has a 3.68% ratio, the lowest since the inception of that policy. Governor?
All right, we'll open it up to questions. We don't have a whole lot of them today. Bodie?
These types of investments, they take a good bit of time. Do you anticipate them getting accomplished during your term? And is the possibility there that, between the time these projects are being announced now is the time to actually start, other hands kind of touch it and things get away?
Well, I intend to be governor for at least one term after this, so I think that we will be able to get each and all of these projects, including the construction and completion of the Brent Spence Bridge, done while I'm in office. But let's talk about the next 2 years, which is what the biennium budget is. Most of the spending that we have described today can and will occur in that period. We have, sadly, way over $200 million in deferred maintenance and needs in our state parks. They're spread out all around the state, and we would deploy those dollars immediately. We were able in the last year to award 119 counties water and sewer projects from the last round of ARPA. We'll definitely be able to do that given that there is, I think, almost $6 billion of water and sewer needs that are out there per what applications we have seen in the past. Broadband may take a little bit longer given what the process is, but I believe over the next 2 years we can get significant amounts of that funding out. The number of different sites that are out there for this site improvement fund, absolutely, we'd spend it, or we would at least agree to the expenditures over the next 2 years. We've got to increase the size of so many of them, and then having the available power, water, sewer, and roads to them. I mean, right now we're finding extra dollars just to extend some roads in the industrial park in Bowling Green, and every time we do, we get 2 new giant companies. Now, it's not an inexpensive road. It's typically tens of millions of dollars, but the needs are there. There is a hunger out there to be in Kentucky, and this just helps us bring more companies and more people in. We got Rachel Droz from WHAS. Okay, we have Tom Latek.
Well, you kind of caught me unawares there. Okay. talking about these major road projects like I-69 bridge there between Henderson and Evansville and Brent Spence, with you applying for the grants of the federal government to pay, the largest share of that, how long will it take them to process those requests once assuming the General Assembly gives you the go-ahead?
Well, our application will be in this year, and we would certainly hope either this year or early next year to get the final okay from the federal government. I want to stick a shovel in the ground at 2023, and I think that is possible with the schedule for the infrastructure bill. I believe that this is the project that the infrastructure bill is or should be about. And if we get the grant, that I hope we will, our overall share over 5 years, about $250 million. So think about us putting in an application saying we're so serious, we've already put down the dollars to where in Kentucky it'll happen. And President Biden and your administration, that makes this happen without tolls. All right, so this is day 2. Again, this was not our original plan. We were going to do this all on Thursday, but times appear to be changing. So by making these announcements, hopefully we add to the knowledge of those out there that are ultimately going to take these ideas and put them into action. But let's be clear, we can't afford not to act. This is the best chance in my lifetime of making this state everything we have always dreamed of. Every single one of these is smart, is fiscally sound, and is an investment that'll pay off in the future. And not one proposal is red or blue, Democrat or Republican. They are all just good for our families. If you looked yesterday at the vocational renovations to prepare workforce, and you look at the places that they're in, you see that none of this is political. It's about doing right by our families, a lesson that after the tornadoes, we all shouldn't have to learn or be reminded of again. We're just people that should care about each other, know that we have more in common as Kentuckians than anything that would pull us apart. And just because we get up here and in government as it forms, we shouldn't be driven by who we don't like. We should be driven by what we want to do and what's important for our families. So let's remember, central role of government isn't to move a state right or left, it's to move it forward. And this is the best chance we've had, certainly in my lifetime, of not just moving forward, but racing forward. Thank you all very much.